Did you guys hear about the restaurant on the moon? Great food. No atmosphere. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of The Hungry Heathen. You'll notice that we're not in our kitchen as we usually are. I want to do something a little different. I'm still going to make recipes, but I also want to maybe throw some education into the channel. So this week I think we're going to start the Poetic Edda, which is one of our base books. Everyone knows the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda. Those are where a lot of us start from. I have this one, which is the Jackson Crawford translation. And I think we're going to just start right at the beginning, which is the Voluspa saga. Now, this also has the Havamal in it, which I think I'm going to do completely separate videos on, because it is fairly long, and I feel like if we were to break it down stanza by stanza, it would make for better content as well. So that being said, this is, let's see, how many pages is it? So it's not a super long one. It's only about 13 pages. So I guess without further ado, we're going to just get right into it. And here's the Voluspa saga. Heed my words, all classes of men, you greater and lesser children of Heimdall. You summoned me, Odin, to tell what I recall of the oldest deeds of God and men. I remember the giants born so long ago in those ancient days. They raised me. I remember 9 worlds, 9 giantesses, and the seed from which Yggdrasil sprang. It was at the very beginning. It was Ymir's time. There was no sand, no sea, no cooling waves, no earth, no sky, no grass, just Ginnungagap. But Odin and his brothers created the earth. It was they who made Midgard. The sun shone from the south upon the stones of their hall, and the land turned green with growing plant life. The sun, companion of the moon, shone from the south, as the heavenly horses pulled it east to west. The sun did not yet know where it rested at evening. The stars did not yet know their places in the sky. The moon did not yet know what kind of power it had. Then all the gods went to their thrones, those holy, holy gods, and came to a decision. They named the night and the hours, the morning, the midday, the afternoon, and the evening, so they could tell the time. The gods had their meeting at Ylfahol, where they built temples and high shrines. They made workshops, treasures, tongs, and other tools. There they played in the grass. They were cheerful. They had no lack of gold till 3 giantesses came, fiendish giantesses from Jotunheim. Then all the gods went to their thrones, those holy, holy gods, and came to a decision. They would make the lord of the dwarves out of Ymir's blood and his rotting limbs. They made Motsognir. He was the lord of all of the dwarves. And the next day they made Durin. They made many man-like little creatures, dwarves of the earth, and Durin named them. Ni, Nithi, Northri, Surthri, Ostri, Vestri, Ethjof, Dvalin, Bivor, Bavor, Bambor, Nori, An, and Anar. I, Njothvitnir, Veg, Gandalf, Vindalf, Thrain, Threk, and Thron. Thron, Vit, and Leet. Njar, and Yarath, Regnin, and Ravsvith. Now I have named the dwarves correctly. Fili, Kili, Funden, Nali, Hepti, Vili, Hanar, Zviur, Fjord, Hyondori, Freg, Loni, Ulfrang, Yari, Oakenshield. Now the names of Dwalin's family, the dwarves descended from Lofar, as men tell. The ones who left their stone halls for a home on Jorvavol. These were Dropnir and Dokthasir, Har, Hugspori, Livang, Gloi, Skrifnir, Vifir, Skafith, Ai, Alf and Ingvi, Oakenshield, Fjalar and Frosty, Fith and Ginnar. The names of these dwarves, the descendants of Lofnar, will be famous as long as the world exists. 3 gods, powerful and passionate, left Asgard for Midgard. They found Ask and Embla, weak, fateless in that land. They had no breath, no soul, no hair, no voice. They looked inhuman. Odin gave them breath. Honir gave them souls, and Loth gave them hair and human faces. I know an ash tree named Yggdrasil, a high tree, speckled with white clay. Dewdrops fall from it upon the valleys. It stands forever green above Urd's well. 3 wise women live there, by that well, under that tree. Urd is named one, another Verdandi, and the third is named Skod. There they carve men's fates. They determine destiny's laws. They choose the lifespan of every human child and how each life will end. I remember the first murder ever in the world, when Gulvig was pierced by spears and burned in Odin's hall. They burned her 3 times. She was reborn 3 times, often killed, not a few times, still she would live again. They named her Haith. When she came into their homes, a sorceress who foresaw God good things. She knew magic. She knew witchcraft. She practiced witchcraft, and she was the pride of an evil family. Then all the gods went to their thrones, those holy, holy gods, and came to a decision about whether they should endure Gulvig's depredations or whether they should seek revenge. Odin let a spear fly and shot it into the fray. That was the first war ever in the world. The outer wall of Asgard was broken, and the Vanir knew war magic. They trampled the valleys. Then all the gods went to their thrones, those holy gods, and came to a decision. All the air would be poisoned with their deceit, or Odin's wife would have to marry a Jotun. Thor alone was in the mood to fight, which he does not take it lightly. When he hears of such things, broken promises, broken oaths and vows, such false speech even as the gods had uttered. I know where Heimdall hid his year, under the heaven-bright holy branches of Yggdrasil. I see a river that feeds the muddy waterfall where Odin's eye hides. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? I sat alone when that ancient one came to me, Odin of the Aesir, and he looked into my eye. What do you seek from me, Odin? Why do you seek me, Odin? Odin, I know where you hid your eye, in the famous waters of the well of Mimir. But Mimir can drink every morning from those waters where your eye now drowns. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? Odin opened my eyes to rings and necklaces. In exchange he got wisdom and prophecy. I saw more and more, looking out over all the worlds. I saw Valkyries come from far away, ready to ride to the homes of the gods. Skuld held a shield, Skogul another, Gun, Hild, Gondil, and Geskogo. Now the Valkyries are counted, ready to ride to the earth, the Valkyries. I saw Balder, the bloodied victim, Odin's son, resigned to his fate. There stood the mistletoe, growing slender and fair high above the plain. That tree, which seemed harmless, caused a terrible sorrow when Hoth took a shot. Balder's brother was born soon thereafter. He, Odin's son, took vengeance while still just 1 night old. He never washed his hands nor combed his hair when he put Balder's killer on the funeral pyre. Frigg wept in Fansalir for the woe of Valhalla. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? I saw a prisoner lying in a certain wood, the liar himself none other than Loki. There sits Sigyn, his wife, although she finds no glee in her husband. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? A river falls from the east, full of daggers and swords, through the valleys of poison. It is named Slith. There stands north of the dark valleys a golden hall of the kin of Sindri. Another stands at Okolnir, the beer hall of a giant named Brimir. I saw a hall that stood far from the sun, on the beaches of corpses. The doors face north. Drops of poison fall through the roof, its walls encircled by serpents. There I saw oath-breakers wading in those thick streams, and murderers, and those who seduce others' lovers. There, Nidhogg sucks the corpses of the fallen, snaps them in his jaws. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? In the east sat an aged giantess in ironwood, and there she raised Fenrir's brood. Among them, in a certain one who bites the moon in a troll's shape. Dead men feed their lives to the wolves. The home of the gods turns red with gore. The sun shines black through the summers. The weather is never cheerful. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? A giant, a herder by trade, sits there on a burial mound striking a harp. He is a cheerful Eikthyr. A bright red rooster named Fjalar sings near him in birdwood. Now the Aster sings the rooster named Golden Comb. He wakes the men who fight for Odin, lord of battle, but another sings below the earth, a soot-red rooster in the halls of hell. Fenrir howls terribly before the doors to hell. The wolf will break its bonds and run. I know much wisdom. I see deep in the future all the way to Ragnarok, a dark day for the gods. Brothers will fight one another and kill one another. Cousins will break peace with one another. The world will be a hard place to live. It will be an age of adultery, an age of the axe and of the sword, an age of storms and wolves. Shields will be cloven. Before the world sinks in the sea, there will be no man left who is true to the other. The Jotun are at play, and the god's fate is kindled at the blast of the Gjallar horn. Heimdall blows the horn hard and holds it high aloft. Odin speaks with Mimir's head. The old tree sighs when the giant shakes it. Yggdrasil still stands but trembles. Fenrir howls terribly before the doors of hell, and the wolf will break its bonds and run. I know much wisdom. I see deep in the future all the way to Ragnarok, a dark day for the gods. Hrym advances from the east with a shield before him, and the Midgard serpent is in a monstrous rage. The serpent beats the waves, and the eagle screams eagerly, splitting corpses with its pale beak. Nagfar, the giant's ship, is released. That ship sails from the east, bearing giants over the sea, and Loki, its captain. The giants are coming together with Fenrir, and Loki too is with them on that voyage. What news from the gods? What news from the elves? All of Jotunheim is roaring, and the Aesir are in council, and the dwarves, creatures of the mountains, tremble by their doors of stone. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? Sut comes from the south with a bright light in his hand. Yes, the sun shines upon the sword in his grasp. The mountains collapse and the trolls fall. Men walk the roads to hell, and the skies divide above. Then comes the second sorrow of Frigg, when Odin goes to fight the wolf, and Freya goes to fight the giant Surt. Then Odin, Frigg's husband, will fall to Fenrir. Then comes the great son of Odin, Vitar, to avenge his father on the wolf. He shoves his sword through the mouth of Fenrir all the way to the heart, avenging Odin. Even Thor comes, Earth's son, Odin's son, to fight the Midgard serpent. The protector of Midgard will kill that serpent in his rage, but all of humankind will die out of the world when Thor falls, and only 9 steps struck down by the venom of the honorless serpent will he take. The sun turns black, the earth sinks to the sea, the stars fall from the sky, flames scorch the leaves of Yggdrasil. A great bonfire reaches to the highest clouds. Fenrir howls terribly before the doors to hell. The wolf will break its bonds and run. I know much wisdom. I see deep in the future all the way to Ragnarok, a dark day for the gods. I I see the earth rise a second time from out of the sea. Green once more, waterfalls flow and eagles fly overhead, hunting for fish among the mountain peaks. The Aesir meet on Ethavol and regard the bones of the Midgard serpent, and there they recall the great events of Ragnarok and Odin's old wisdom. There they will find once more the wonderful golden game pieces in the grass, which they had once played with in the earliest days. Fields will bear harvest without labor. All sickness will disappear. Balder will return. Hother and Balder will live in Odin's hall, as well as the other gods. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? Then Honir will speak forth his prophecies, and the two sons of Odin, the two brothers, will inhabit the heavens. Have you learned enough yet, Allfather? I see a hall standing there, more beautiful than sunlight, thatched with gold at Gimli. There bold men will dwell, and enjoy cheer throughout their lives. Then the dark dragon will come flying down from the dark mountains, and glistening, the serpent named Nidhogg will bear corpses in his wings as he flies over that valley. Now I must retire. The Voluspa, the prophecy of Ragnarok. Voluspa is told through the person of a deceased witch, or a vulva. She's awakened by the god Odin and interviewed for information on the beginning and end of the world. The poem contains the somewhat infamous catalog of the dwarves, a list giving names to all of the creatures, which was mined by J.R.R. Tolkien for the Lord of the Rings saga. Two versions of the Voluspa have been two versions of the Voluspa are preserved. One is the Codex Regius, alongside the bulk remainder of the poems that we have in this book, and one isolated in context in the Högsbok, which is a later manuscript. The poem is quoted extensively in the Prose Edda written by Snorri Sturluson. Occasionally it can also be found in other manuscripts, but the following translation, the one that we just read, comes from the Codex Regius. It does not include the additional stanzas which are found in the Högsbok, which is likely later additions. The poem in itself is highly elusive, as the witch often refers to stories that she does not tell in their entirety. The story of the First War is a fine example of that. It's only told in vague detail. We also see a story that is told more fully in the Prose Edda, of a giant who built a wall around Asgard and demanded Odin's wife as his price. Now, when we get to the Prose Edda, that'll be one of the stories that we read. The gods accepted the service and then cheated him, essentially, out of the prize. This also alludes to the death of Balder. The use of a spear from the mistletoe to kill Balder is interpreted in various ways. Many believe that the poem was composed in Iceland, where there are few trees, and mistletoe might be mistaken to be a tree. So, that was the Voluspa saga. That was the beginning story, the prophecy of Ragnarok, and how the world and the gods and all things came to be. Now, the next story in this is the Havamal, but I'm going to skip over that when we read from this, because I want to dive deeper into the Havamal itself. So, after the Havamal, check the table of contents here, because we're so well prepared. So, after Havamal, is going to be, if I can get the page to fold over so we don't lose our place. There we go. The next video we read will be the story that comes in the Edda after the Havamal. Because like I said, I want to dive deeper into the Havamal, and I would like to just read, it's going to be a whole series of videos on the Havamal. Otherwise we're going to be a while, because it's not a long poem, but interpreting the stanzas can take some time. So we're going to skip the Havamal in this for now. So the next story we read will be, I'm going to butcher this, but Vafthrûthnismo, Odin's contest with Riddle Weaver. That'll be the next story we read from our Edda. Like I said, this is the one that, this is a Jackson Crawford translation. I highly recommend getting this one if you're new to heathenry and you're just starting out. It's a very good translation. This is actually a shorter video, surprisingly enough. So, that being said, that's the one. That's the edition we're using, the Jackson Crawford translation of the Poetic Edda. If you have one and want to follow along, please do. I hope that this side of the content that I'm creating takes off, because I really enjoy reading the sagas. I really enjoy reading the stories. So I think this coming week we're going to do another cooking video. Excuse me. Thirsty work, that reading. So this coming week is going to be a cooking video. We're going to be making a roast, which should be actually pretty easy, pretty simple, and pretty quick. And we have a ritual coming up this weekend, which I'm hoping to maybe get a little bit of content from and record, and provided it's okay with the parties involved, and maybe post that up in here as well. So, that being said, I hope everyone enjoyed the Voluspa. I hope you guys enjoy seeing more of this content. I want to expand. I don't want to make just cooking videos. I want to expand on the content this page creates. And I feel like reading from the sagas is a good expansion point, a good place to expand from, because a lot of us know the lore, or those of us that are just starting out don't know the lore, and I feel like reading the lore and spreading it and passing it on is incredibly important. So, that being said, if you guys like this video, comment down below, let me know what you thought. Let me know what I could do different. I think the microphone's pretty well dialed in, so I think we're good there. But let me know how it sounds. Let me know if there's anything I can do different. Constructive criticism is always welcome. And that being said, we will see you next time.